Welcome to the Export Marketing and Preparing for the West Africa Connect trade event, coaching video and coaching program with By Hand Consulting. My name is Karen Gibbs, and I am so happy to be back with you all and leading this program. So today is our third video in a series of 8 coaching videos. And today we're going to talk about best practices for participating in digital trade events, like the West Africa Connect trade event that WACOMP and the ITC is planning for November of 2021. So as we're talking about best practices in digital trade events, I want to highlight that we are really focusing on how to develop customer relationships and drive sales through B2B online trade events. Now, if we remember back to our video number 2, best practices in export marketing strategies, it's very important to define your target customer in terms of distribution channels and in terms of target profiles. So in terms of distribution channels, you have either B2B, business to business, or B2C, business to consumer. So it's very important to define which channel you want to focus on. It's also important to define what profile of customer, the end consumer, which is B2C, or a retail store, or a wholesale company, which is B2B. This video and these best practices are focusing solely on B2B or business to business channels. Just want to make sure that we're clear about that before we continue. So our best practices can be categorized into 3 different goals. The first best practice is you want to define your customer's journey. So think about that target customer that you defined through your export marketing strategy. And you want to understand the role that the digital trade show plays in your customer's journey. The second is you want to have really engaging information and photographs prepared so that you can engage your customer at this event. And then third is you want to make sure you have the documents and tools, which consist of an export catalog and an email marketing or a CRM tool that will help develop the relationships after the event and cultivate sales. So let's review all 3 of these best practices in more detail. But before we get into those 3 practices, I want to highlight 2 very important marketing principles. The first is, for successful export B2B sales, you need to be in the mindset that you're not just selling your product, you're developing a relationship with your customer. So therefore, the goal of these trade events is to make new contacts and get to know each other, so you can establish communication and start that relationship. So really stay focused on the relationship development more so than selling. The second principle is that a trade show is not a marketing strategy. And also a digital trade event is not a digital marketing strategy. So your marketing strategy or your digital marketing strategy has to define your target market and customer, like we talked about in video number 2. And you also need to have the other sales and marketing tools that will support the event and that are part of your digital strategy, which we will talk about in future videos. I believe it's number 5. Alrighty, let's dive into these best practices. So the first thing you need to do is you need to define your customer's journey. So what is a customer's journey? The customer's journey defines the different phases in the relationship between when your customer first discovers you and your brand to the point where you have an ongoing relationship and orders are growing and you're really both reaching a profitable point in your relationship. So here are 5 common stages in a customer's journey. The first one being discovery, right? That customer discovers your brand, or maybe your returning customer or buyer discovers new products that you have. Stage 2, evaluation. The buyer determines that your offer is a good match for what they need to buy in terms of product category, minimum orders, delivery time, payment, and communication. Third stage is cultivation. So the buyer is placing an order, the order is negotiated, finalized. Delivery is the 4th phase, which is where the order is delivered on time and paid for on time. And then development, that's where the relationship really starts to grow. So you want to define what's the normal journey for your customer, right? What are the different phases that they go through from the point of first meeting you to the point of having a profitable relationships. Then we want to think of, there are 2 types of digital trade events out there. One type is what we call a lead generation show, which is the type of show where you're going to just make connections, right? You're going to meet a buyer and they're going to meet you. The other type of trade event is a transactional trade event. That's where you'd actually be able to write orders through the trade show. The West Africa Connect event in November of 2022 is going to be a lead generation event. It's going to allow you to make connections. So an event like that, a lead generation event, what you want to do is define where it stands in your customer's journey. So a digital market like the West Africa Connect event, or also the New York Now event, is really going to play a role in these first 2 steps of a customer's journey. So the buyer is going to discover your brand, or a returning buyer is going to discover new products that you offer. And then a buyer is going to evaluate, are you the right type of company to work with in terms of minimum order, the product you're offering, delivery times, payment, and communication? So what are the key actions that you want that buyer to do during the event? Is you want them to visit your digital booth. You want them to learn about your company and your products. You also want them to download your catalog, which is where you're going to show your full export collection. And then you want to establish communication with them. So those are really the key actions that you want a buyer to take. So at this point, you've defined what the role is for this event in your customer's journey and what you want the buyer to do in order to really start that, establish that buyer on that journey. So the second best practice is that you want to really prepare information that will engage the buyer. You want to prepare information that will help the buyer discover your brand and then evaluate whether your brand and your offer is right for their business. So in terms of discovery, you want to show those buyers what your best-selling products are. You want to tell them what's new that you're doing, and you want to tell them about your company and your brand. In the evaluation stage, you want to make sure that you have your price terms well-defined, your minimum order, shipping information, and payment methods and payment terms. So let's look at these a little more detail. In terms of showing your best products or showing new products, the most important thing is to have good quality photos. So there are several options for how to show your products, and I have examples here on the right-hand side of the screen. One, you can have your products that are shown on a model. Move my picture of myself to the other corner so you can see this. One is you could have products shown on a model. with a very clean or neutral background. 2, you could have your photographs that are photographed on a neutral background, white or just a solid color. So it's very easy to see the product. Or 3rd, you could put together a little fashion show, right? A video recording fashion show where you're showing some of your products. For all of these, it's really important that the buyer can really very easily see the product that you're offering. And in these, you want the buyer to discover your brand by seeing a range of products that represent your style, the techniques that you use, the materials you use, and a sense of your brand and identity. You do not need to show all of your products. Your catalog should show all of your products. So on the digital event, you just want to show a selection of products that best represent your best-selling items, your new items, and really tell your story. So good quality photos that show a representation of your products. The second is The second is you want to share your story with either a company profile or a brand statement. So in the digital event, you want to have a very clear written description of your company. This should be somewhere between 100 and 150 words. You want to share your why. Why are you in business? What are your values as an enterprise or a brand? You want to describe a little bit what, so your products that you offer, maybe your process, maybe a little bit about the origin of your designs. You could also mention how long you've been in business or where you currently sell your products. So a very clear 100 to 150 word company profile or brand statement. Third is you want to be prepared to answer these questions. What is the price? What's your minimum order? How do you ship? And what are the payment terms and payment methods? And for all of these questions, they are explained in detail in some of the other supporting videos. So in terms of price terms, we'll discuss that in video number 6 about distribution channels. Minimum order, we discussed that in the last video, number 2, where we talked about target customer profiles. In terms of shipping, we'll be discussing that in video number 8 about export logistics. And in terms of payment terms, we discussed that in the last video, video number 2, about target customer profiles. So be sure to review all that information and have that very clearly defined about your company. What questions will engage buyers? So be sure as you're preparing this event that you have a list of questions that you would like to ask the customers you meet through the event. Buyers love it when brands ask them questions about their business. This shows that you care. So some types of questions that you could ask would be, what type of store do you have? Where is your store located? What are your best-selling product categories? What other countries do you import from? Do you carry other brands or do you develop your own brand? All of these will help you understand what is the profile of the customer that you're interacting with and meeting, and do they match the target profile for your export strategy? So what documents and tools do you need to have prepared for a digital trade event that will help you develop relationships and cultivate sales? The most important 2 things is to have an export catalog and to have an email marketing or CRM tool. For an export catalog, we're going to discuss this in detail in video number 4, right after this one. But your catalog needs to communicate your brand and tell your story. It needs to show all the products that can be ordered, and it needs to provide information for how to place an order. Your export catalog will achieve that through 3 different parts of the catalog. So one is about those lifestyle photos. Two is products of photos on a neutral background with detailed product information. And then third is the section about prices, terms, and ordering information. Again, we will detail all parts of these in the following video, video number 4. The other thing you'll need to have is an email marketing and CRM tool. This is the most effective digital marketing tool that you can have in terms of a return on investments. And so your goal is to create a customer list and grow your customer list, and then also use this program to send emails on a regular basis to your customers to cultivate. We will discuss this in detail in our video on best practices in digital marketing. So please be sure to watch that video, where we'll have information about how to create effective messages and engage your customers. After the trade show, the most important thing that you can do is follow up with all of the buyers that you've met who have discovered your brand and evaluated your brand to determine it's a good match for their business. So you need to follow up. It's your responsibility to follow up with the buyers that you've met. We recommend sending 3 personalized emails to a customer. One, you want to spend the week of the show or the event, and then you want to contact them every 1 to 2 weeks after that. You want to make these emails as personalized as possible. So refer to those buyer specific interests. You want to include your export catalog. You want to include images of the products they were interested in. And you want to provide all of the contact information so that they can be in touch with you. So this will be really key. Send 3 emails to all the customers that you meet through this digital trade event. That's going to help you get to that 3rd stage of the relationship, which is cultivating the orders. So best practices for digital trade events is 1, understand the role that the digital trade show plays in your customer's journey. 2, prepare engaging information about your product and your company and questions that you can ask your customer so you can engage them during the event. And then 3, have the documents and tools, an export catalog and an email marketing CRM tool in place so that you can develop the relationships and cultivate sales after the show. In terms of an activity after this, from this video, what I want you to do is go back to the target customer handout from video number 2 and really study those expectations. That's going to help you, the expectations in terms of price, minimum order, delivery time, and shipping. That's going to help you prepare the information for your company that your target customer will expect from you. Thank you so much for joining this video, and we'll see you in the next one about export marketing catalogs.